What's going on, Minnesota Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. We're back. The trio is back. I am sorry that I took a little personal time and I didn't get to update you on, I don't even know what happened. I'm being sarcastic because we're talking about how I'm kind of like not excited anymore about the in between and the training camp stuff. So I'm looking for guys like Jake, and if Charlotte and Jonathan jump in, and if Andrew hops in, if you can kind of help reinvigorate my Viking spirits, because I shouldn't be. And according to Mark Sanchez in a video that I just watched recently, I should be very excited about the Vikings this year. But
you should be. And there is a lot to get excited for this season for the Vikings, even if the record, like we've talked about before, maybe they don't win as many games as you're going to want them to this year. There's a lot of fun stories and a lot of fun young building blocks and players on this team to go out there and watch.
Yeah, what feels different to me this year is that we're not having that retread of the players that we've seen for many years just trotting back out there. We're going to get to see some new faces on Saturday, and that's kind of interesting. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, I agree, Adam.
It's funny you mentioned that because the video I'm talking about is Mark Sanchez on Colin Cowherd. By the way, just as a side, say what you will about him and he had the butt fumble or whatever. Like, Mark Sanchez gave probably one of the best interviews I've ever personally enjoyed. I highly recommend it. It came out today. And he talked about how damn difficult it was being thrown in as a rookie quarterback. He talked about how the year prior it was Joe Flacco and Matt Ryan who just got thrust in, and now Matt Stafford and Mark Sanchez were like, well, we're definitely starting because it worked in these two places. And that's kind of where it shifted and changed to like, hey, we'll just start a guy right away, because back in the day, it used to be that rite of passage in the Aaron Rodgers rookie year where, hey, you're going to sit behind Favre for at least 2 years. Like, whatever. We don't think about that now. And that wasn't that long ago. But he talked about, just kind of rounding it out and bringing it back to the Vikings, how Colin, I forget who Colin's team is this year. Oh, he likes the Commanders, because they completely, from the owner down, just everything got washed and they reset everything. That's pretty good for the culture, right? But he said, hey, J-Mac likes the Vikings. And Mark Sanchez, well, hey, I like the Vikings too. He's like, I don't know why they're getting a lot of disrespect. It's like, the big question mark is the quarterback, which you got to get right. He's like, but you got to be excited about a coach that puts out this silver platter of things and gears it towards your side of the ball. He's like, oh, by the way, you have Brian Flores running the defense, who is legitimate. So that was kind of cool to hear from a person that I actually like and respect in the media. But I don't know. I guess I've just been out of tune. I didn't hear anything for 12 days about football other than what you guys sent. So I was like, oh, I'm kind of out of it now. So I'm ready to get caught up, just like you guys. So where do you guys want to start?
We could start almost anywhere. We could start with politics if you want.
Uh-oh.
Because the Democratic Party has chosen their vice presidential candidate. It is former Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
Jesse Ventura.
Big Minnesota Vikings fan. I sent in our private chat for our group a video of him being asked if he is worried about losing some voters in the Wisconsin area because he's a Vikings fan, and he said no. He said we don't need their votes. I'm a Vikings fan.
That was pretty darn funny. I got a chuckle out of that one. It'd be pretty cool if we had a vice president who was a Vikings fan. Maybe,
okay, so I do have a weird question for you because I don't know this. Does the vice president live in the White House?
I believe not in the White House, but don't they have a separate place on premise, like in the facility for?
I have no idea. I've been to the White House and I don't know.
I think they do. Someone back that up in the chat.
I mean, I wasn't allowed in the White House because I was technically on a terrorist list.
Yeah, now I'm going to be on another list because I'm already on like 4 of them. Google. Does the vice president also live in the White House? The vice president has an office in the West Wing as well as the nearby Eisenhower Executive Office building. Well, I love Google. Does the vice president get their own house?
Well,
Although number one observatory circle was available to the vice president in 1974, 3 years passed before a vice president lived in the home. That doesn't answer my question. Why are there so many?
I'm going to assume if there's not a straightforward answer,
Here it is.
must be no.
The answer is no. They live at number one observatory circle.
Oh.
A number one observatory circle, often referred to as the Naval Observatory, is the official residence of the Vice President of the United States. There you go.
Okay,
There's
so
your answer.
no.
Hey, thank you, Justin. Also on this, too, to revisit, not built the same way, too fragile mentally. Let him ride the pine until ready. I think there's always a benefit to waiting. I don't see another thing Mark Sanchez talked about. Are preseason reps really necessary? And he said absolutely, because of the vanilla defenses you'll face, whatever. It's not a matter of having to do it the exact way that Aaron Rodgers did it, or like Jordan Love is doing now. It's weird. It's the same franchise. You don't need 3 seasons, but if you just wait 1 season, what it could do for you dividends wise, like who cares? Because what I don't like is we rush so fast to get guys out there, and then if they have a Bryce Young season last year, like, well, he's shit, we got to get rid of him. Well, you put him in the worst situation possible from the very moment he got there. What if he had a chance to process and learn and get mentored and just to sit back a little bit? Because we've seen you can look like this in college and be on the complete opposite end in the NFL as far as being really good here and really bad here. But I also see, like, you don't want to do the Jordan Love thing where it's like, well, I waited 3 years. I had a very small sample size, and now he's the highest paid guy. Like, we got to find a sweet spot somewhere in there, I feel like.
Well, the Vikings have like an example of both of these because Sam Darnold never got the time to really do his thing and grow and develop. He was kind of rushed and thrown into everything, and now people say he sucks, but did he really get a fair shot anywhere?
I don't think so, Adam. And what makes this a fascinating question is that there is no right answer. It's dependent on the player and the system that they get put into. Because some quarterbacks are able to go out there and have success year one. Others, you're probably better off letting them wait a season or two before they start. And this is why I am firmly on board of I want to see Sam Darnold play the entire season for the Minnesota Vikings. I know there's a lot of Vikings fans. There's a narrative that's being pushed out there for regardless of how Sam Darnold plays, by the bye week, the Vikings need to start J.J. McCarthy because he's the future of the franchise and you want to get him out there. And I'm like, you know what? I believe in J.J. McCarthy and I do think he has a bright future with this team. But I just don't see a reason to rush him out there so soon.
Well, a lot of people are really expecting Sam Darnold to be terrible.
Yeah,
and the history would say that probability-wise is what would happen. But I'm also like, to the point earlier, sorry, I'm going to reference this a lot. This interview blew me away today. But if you have and it's weird because our division, it feels like within 1 year, everything just changed. Within a calendar year, it went from the Vikings being like 13-4 all the way to like we're gonna fight for the bottom now of this division from just being a year ago coming off of winning the division. Detroit took there's like they say a lot in the media, well, maybe this team can take the next step. They did what Houston did in the same year. Like, no, we took 2.5 steps past where we were originally hoping to go. Holy shit, we're here. We're almost there. And then the Packers weren't supposed to win a playoff game, much less I didn't think they were going to get in. They won a playoff game on the road, damn near won 2. And now, like, nothing has happened yet, and I am rooting for him to fail because it's my obligatory thing to do as a Vikings fan. But Caleb Williams is supposed to be the new Aaron Rodgers in the league. Patrick Mahomes-ish, right? Well, Chicago finally didn't shit the bed, had a good defense last year, only made it better, and then they actually did right by a quarterback and got good weapons. So it's like, damn, the whole division looks really good on both sides of the ball.
To be fair, Chicago's never really been light on weapons. They just didn't have the talent to use them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, Justin Fields was an interesting quarterback, but he didn't have the arm talent to take advantage of what he had there.
Here's my question, though, about Fields in Chicago. So, and I totally agree with what you're saying, Adam, but how come I'm hearing now that he's on the verge of beating Russell Wilson, with the Steelers for their starting spot? Like, what's the difference between Chicago and where he's at now with him?
I don't believe that for 1 second, Kyle. I don't believe that for half a second. The one thing you have, if you're athletic, is, okay, I can make plays and be that splash thing, right? He has that. But if you can't accurately throw a fucking football, I watched him last year. I mean, good Lord. I tweeted out to my buddy, shout out to James. I always mention him on the show. Go check out his music, 18 Visions and Burn Halo. He's a huge Bears fan, and he told me the day they drafted him, he was like, "You ready for the King of the North for a decade?" I was like, he'll be on a new team before his rookie deal was over. Did I nail that fucking take?
You nailed that one.
But that's the thing. He gets frustrated because he sees what's going to happen about a year or two in. He's like, yep, he's not who he thought he was. He had the most turnovers in the fourth quarter last year, something along one of those stat lines of where when the game matters the most and when I need you to do the one thing a guy that throws the ball well does, he did neither of those good at all. That's why I'm like, damn, I don't think he's going to do shit. Because let's be real about Pittsburgh for a second. Mike Tomlin might have that whole, we never have a losing season here. Cool. Well, you don't fix your offensive line for the last 8 years. And outside of George Pickens, why should I be scared of you?
But it's like the Vikings, they were 8-9 win team for many years. But were they serious contenders? Not really.
Right. It's what I'm fascinated with all, like, just going back. That's why I don't believe they might be the rumor, Kyle, but I feel like Russell Wilson has, because that's the thing I hate on Russell Wilson a lot because I don't believe him at all. I don't think he's genuine at all. I think he's a fucking robot that plugs his head into the wall at night like a USB port. He doesn't have a personality of his own, and I just want him to be genuine for 3 seconds. He's on the last win because he still believes, and especially I can't believe riding that high off of a Super Bowl and looking like, damn, this might be a dynasty at one point, to it completely falling off the rails. He still believes like, oh man, I can go win a Super Bowl. I'm still that good. Bro, you're 6 shitty games away from not starting again. So it's like, okay, maybe. But that's just, I guess to round out the point, Kyle, that's just how bad Justin Fields is. he's that bad where you're like, I'm getting third team Russell Wilson, and I'm like, I'm excited about him more than I will ever be excited about you because I just can't see him throwing an accurate football, but I could be wrong. Weirder things.
Well, we're talking about rough quarterback situations. We might see one on Saturday with the Raiders. I don't know what they have going on a quarterback at all right now.
I feel bad for Devontae Adams. If you haven't watched Receiver yet, like you feel for him so bad for being there.
As bad as you can feel for a millionaire.
Did you see that rumor that the Raiders were trying to package Adams to go and get Ayuk?
No, I didn't. That's wild.
Okay, what's the trade or what's the deal with that?
Apparently, what I was reading is that the Raiders wanted to trade Adams for Ayuk and a third.
I see. I was going to hate on it at first, but I see the upside because the money's not the issue. It's how much of prime Devontae do you have left, and you could lock up a guy, but that's just
let's be honest, Adams is not happy there.
He's not, which would be great for both sides, but if you're Brandon Ayuk, why the hell would you want to leave San Francisco?
When you look at the options, so it's like, okay, does he go to New England? Does he go to Pittsburgh? I mean, New England already got shut down.
Yeah,
right now it looks like Pittsburgh is probably the favorite.
That's the thing. You can go there, and it's cool. George Pickens is an awesome player, but you're going to go to arguably the hardest division in football, and the quarterback play, I hate to say it, but Brock Purdy looks way better than Russell Wilson does now. And the coach
we all like Brandon Ayuk, right? We all think he's a very good player, correct?
He's an extremely talented player.
But is he a wide receiver 1? Is he a wide receiver 1B? Is he a wide receiver 2? What is he? I don't really know.
Adam, I will counter this with a yes, but I'll tell you why. Again, go watch this interview today. I learned so much in a 20-minute interview from him. This is the hot topic right now. Hey, where's Brandon Ayuk going to go? they said, I forget how many targets he had. I should have his stats up, but I didn't know we were going to talk about Brandon Ayuk today. Out of so many, like it's a large percentage, I think it was between 60 and 70 of his catches. If it was man coverage, it was either a first down or a touchdown. Man coverage, which you can't play against San Francisco because they have too many good players. So, and that's what they said in the video. If you play zone coverage against the 49ers, they'll pick you apart. That's just what they do. So if he goes there, quarterback play is going to drop a little bit. You'll have another weapon. It'll be sort of similar, but you're also going from it just feels like the Walmart version off-brand of what the 49ers want to be. It's such a downgrade just for what, $4 or $5 million more a year? Dude, stay here. Negotiate the money how you got to negotiate it. That's another thing we don't talk about. I'll go on a rant in a second, but negotiate the money how you want, but really over $3 or $4 million like extra dollars. Would you rather win a Super Bowl and be like, okay, because I'm ignorant. We're all poor people here in retrospect to these millionaires, right?
All right, I got to interrupt you for just a second because if you were watching NFL Network today, you saw something kind of interesting. They were talking about Brandon Ayuk and where he was going to go. And in the background of the clip, they pointed out, he's like, that's Brandon Ayuk's agent, but he declined an interview. I just had to laugh at that. Sorry,
I was saying, no, you're good. You're good. I'm laughing because we're all poor compared to all these, giant millionaires, right? So I truly am ignorant to the ins and outs and the smaller and finer details of, well, living in California, getting paid $26 a year versus going to Pennsylvania, getting paid $29.5. This is what we're looking at. How much do you take home? I don't care what the average is. I personally look at being the small brain little guy down here, right? What's the guaranteed money that I'm going to get no matter what? If I break my leg in half like Alex Smith, what am I taking home forever? What am I secure with? What are my guarantees and how does that fit? Because that thing it's almost like a Twitter thing now. It's like, well, he's getting this much a year. How much of the contract is he going to take home? That's what I care about. Why can't you shift that a little bit and be team friendly? But Brandon Ayuk and his agent can't be that ignorant to know you are not Tyreek Hill. You are not Justin Jefferson. You're not CeeDee Lamb. Yes, you're good. You're a little bit less annual, what these guys probably demand. Dude, you're on a roster with George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, Trent Williams. The money has to stay somewhere in the stratosphere of, reality. Are you better than Christian McCaffrey? Are you more valuable than him? I don't think so. Are you even more valuable than Deebo Samuel? I can't answer that with 100% yes. So it's like, I don't know. This is the only time in like the recent memory where I'm like, I wonder if a player is truly overvaluing themselves. Because all three of us on this show, we've all said, go get your money. And I'm not saying he shouldn't get his money, but look at where you're at, dude.
Speaking of go get your money and Tyreek Hill, boy, the Vikings are pretty lucky they waited or that they got Justin Jefferson's deal done before Tyreek Hill's deal got done, right?
I didn't see the ins and outs of what changed.
Didn't Tyreek get almost 30 a year?
Look, let's bring it up. I should be prepared.
I'm saying he got an absolutely insane contract, and if that would have happened before Justin Jefferson got paid, I think Minnesota would have paid a lot more for Jefferson.
Oh, no doubt about it. That part I got you here. All right. 20. Wow. See, this is wild. This is why if you're talented and you do it the right way, you can make so much money in such a short amount of time if you're really, really good at what you do. 2024 cap hit for Tyreek Hill is $18.2 million. He gets $26.25 million in cash this year. Career earnings, he's made almost $100 million. That's wild. Void years starting in 2027. He restructured. So his cap hit is 18, 31, and 55 in 2026. Ooh. And they just paid Tua as well. Tua's getting over $50 million a year, which to me, I can't even believe I uttered that sentence. Yeah, it's dumb. It's so dumb.
Tua, is he even a top 15 quarterback in the NFL in your guys' opinion?
You don't have to be to get paid these days.
It's crazy, but you're right. You just have to be the next guy up, and the franchise has to feel like we'd be worse without you. We don't want to go into.
Here's an angle that we haven't vocalized yet, but it's so weird, right? We have to put the disclaimer, at least I do. If anyone of substance watches this, we're not the old boomers who are like, you catch a ball, you don't deserve it. Give that money to our teachers. Everybody, yes, teachers should get paid more money. We all agree. No shit.
Yeah.
Basic economics tells you the NFL makes this many billions of dollars. The employees are going to make millions. Go read a book, you idiot. I can't make that a thing for people to learn, you know?
Yeah, the argument to not pay the players is to give the owners more money.
Yeah, it goes against every ethos that all these like liberal or libertarian guys that scream about that. Well, you want to do it for the man. I'm like, you're asking to make these rich guys richer, you fucking idiot. But I'm trying to think about, we've been pro player on this show for as long as I can remember. Go get your money. The average NFL career is 3 years. You might get a couple mil if you're lucky. That's most of the league. That's over the 3/4 of the league majority. But we're doing this thing now where it's like, well, instead of you, because I guess I'm getting to the running back part of it, where my brain is going, what I'm trying to say. They'll move off a running back so quick. They're like, hey, I'll go get another one. But quarterbacks, they're like, well, we got to pay this dude because he showed us for 6 games. He played really well. And it could be the schedule. Your opponents were injured. It was early part of the year. It could be 100 different things.
It could be the Vikings collapsing and making Daniel Jones look good.
That too. But the point being, like, that's so funny. I still hate it so much. But think about how quick they are to move off of everyone because it's cheaper. It's always about the money. But we're seeing this weird trend right now, and I don't know that it sticks, where, well, this guy statistically, and if you want to count wins as a singular player stat, you can be that person. I'll never do it. But like, oh, he won a playoff game. And his stats were really good for 8 weeks. It's like, that's all it takes? Dude, Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl 13 years ago. His salary was like $19 million.
Now, while we're talking about this, I kind of want to interject a little bit because we're talking about how like salary cap and these financial situations because of, the expected, salary cap for teams and everything, being able to put out more money. What is the major factor now for teams to want to move on from players? Is it effectiveness? Is it like legal issues? Because right now, if you troll X a little bit, you will find people that want to trade Jordan Addison for Brandon Ayuk. You'll find them. And I don't know if I'm ready to do that or get on that bandwagon. I don't even know at the moment what is coming for Jordan Addison. So to me, it's an interesting conversation, but a strange topic.
Trade Jordan Addison for Brandon Ayuk.
As for Jordan Addison, real quick, everything I've seen from him, he's really been flashing at training camp. He's been looking really good. He's an excellent building block for the future for the Vikings.
He had a real good rookie year, showing a lot of potential. He's on a cheap contract. All those things add up to being a little bit more lenient with legality, I think.
Yeah, if you're winning and you're good, obviously we've seen that in the league, that you don't get the same treatment as if, you're a random rotational guy for whatever group. Yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah.
I think that's a little more prevalent these days, especially with the huge salary cap the teams get these days.
I don't know how it works. See, I'm a dork about the details. Are the 49ers going to pay and then we'll trade, or we swap? Like, I guess we would have to take a trade. Is it just player for player and we got to eat some of the money? Like, I don't know. Because that would certainly make the Vikings offense, in my opinion, like, you have to talk about them being like, okay, because I think Brandon Ayuk's better than Jordan Addison. But that's the other thing too. It's such a transactional business league now. With what that tells me is, okay, Jefferson's going to be here until J.J. McCarthy gets paid. We've established that. Is Brandon Ayuk going to do the same thing? And then when J.J. gets paid, are both of them leaving? Is one leaving? Is J.J. going to leave because he'll be older? Is Brandon Ayuk going to be number one? Is he worthy of a number one? It just goes into 700 places, but it all stems back to money, like it just said.
Oh, yeah.
And then how long until we got to pay J.J. McCarthy? Because obviously you can't pay all 3 of those guys at the same time. But it
is absolutely mind-blowing that J.J. McCarthy is 21 years old.
That's wild. God.
Speaking of that, did you see that I actually wrote about it over on the Viking Age yesterday. Did you see how JJ McCarthy deals with having a bad practice or struggles like that? What he does after the practice?
Are you talking about the meditation?
No.
No, well, that was what I was listening to earlier today. He was talking about how that was something that he picked up in 2020 during COVID, just to help him deal with stress and being isolated and everything. He took up doing meditation, and that is something that he has continued on with today to help him with anxiety or a bad practice or just to relax himself in general. So I wanted to bring that up, but what were you
apparently when he
about?
was a freshman at Michigan, when he had a bad practice or was disappointed in what he did, he would go home and he would keep his tights on from practice until he went to bed. And he would figuratively take off his tights to remove the day's stress and try to move on from those things, which, being a quarterback, you have to have a short-term memory and be able to move on from things. And if that helps him do it, that's great, but still a little weird.
Yeah, it's definitely different. And it's not different in like, oh my God, that's weird, or like, that's strange. I literally have never heard of that. And I would like to know more as just a general fan. And obviously I'm supporting him being on the team. What makes him find comfort and relief or peace in that? Because it's not connecting with me, but he's probably a lot smarter than I am, because he went to Michigan and he did all kinds of cool shit, and he's a quarterback. But it's not, the puzzle pieces aren't making a photo in my mind. So I'm like, what does this do for you?
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, I kind of get it, but it's a little weird.
It's all right.
Players and quarterbacks are very superstitious, and that feels like one of those things that he felt like worked for him one time, and he's just, I got to stick with it because this is my routine now.
But we've seen quarterbacks in the past that like wouldn't change their socks after a big game or stuff like that. So I mean, everybody's got their things.
Yeah,
you're making me think of Ace Ventura. You remember the big part in the beginning? It's like, I've got a linebacker that hasn't washed his jock strap in 2 years because he thinks flies are lucky.
Oh no!
Oh my God, what a classic! Oh
boy, I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
I watched it recently on a flight, and I laughed.
Does it hold up?
It's so fucking funny. Jim Carrey
it's not
was such
appropriate anymore, I don't think, but it's still funny.
Yeah, there might be a couple of things in there that wouldn't be a fun topic to have to answer to, but Jim Carrey, he was just special, man. The '90s, I'll argue forever, they gave us some of the best films ever, because you just had so many people pumping out so many classic movies back to back to back to back. My brother asked me, let's shift off of football for 3 seconds. So I'm flying home. I went to London for a wedding in a castle of all things.
Cool.
It was cool as shit. Shout out to Shira and Simon. You guys are wonderful. I had a wonderful time. Thank you for letting me come be a part of the wedding.
Wait, her name is Shira?
Shira, yeah.
Like the female He-Man?
Shira.
Yeah, Shera.
Nice.
She rules, man. She's a really good friend of mine. They had a classic wedding. Simon's from London. They live in New York. And he's like, hey, I'm from England. Why don't we go get married over there? So we all turned it into, hey, we're going to go to your wedding. And then everyone went on vacation afterwards, which was amazing. But damn, I forgot where I was going with that. I got distracted by the wedding. I'll come back to it. I'm sorry. I'm having a brain fart on the air, which happens.
CTE, military CTE kicking in.
Okay, so Kevin O'Connell spoke to the press at practice today, and apparently Sam Darnold is going to start the preseason game on Saturday.
Good.
So we are going to see some Sam Darnold, and he said after Sam Darnold gets a little bit of work, we are going to see a pretty heavy dose of JJ McCarthy.
See, I was already excited to watch the game, but that makes me extra excited knowing that we're going to get to see Sam Darnold, who is going to be our starting quarterback, the first game of the season, and a chance to get to see JJ McCarthy, the future of the franchise, out there as well, too. That makes me excited as a fan to watch this game.
Part of me was wondering if we were just going to see like a split between Mullins and Hall, which would have been boring as poop.
I was expecting that, to be frank. I've seen that coming. because we have these joint practices now that the teams do. This year, I think it's with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, and those are coming up, I believe, next week, right?
Yes, and those practices are in a way, I think, valued more than what an actual preseason game is by the staff.
100%.
So I was almost wondering if that was going to be where they were going to play more McCarthy. So it's nice that we as fans are going to get an opportunity to see him out there in purple for the first time as well, too.
It's
and
funny
McCarthy's
you say
had
that.
some pretty good practices. On Saturday, he looked really good, and he's been working with the ones a bit.
Yep.
Still working with the twos as well, but we have seen Kevin O'Connell say that he is not closing the door on JJ McCarthy starting some games. So that is interesting as well.
I like that. I still think that's not that I don't believe him, but I do feel like that's kind of the political answer you have to say, because you have to say that, Adam. Like, if you're Kevin O'Connell, you can't just be like, no, he's not starting. You're just killing the kid's confidence. Like, you have to tell him, hey, we're not closing the door, even though the door is like kind of like that. Like, it's just barely open a crack. Like, I really don't think he's going to start, but
it's funny to hear that and then see what's going on with, like, other rookie quarterbacks around the league, because, like, the Bears are all in on Caleb Williams. He is going to start, and it's going to be, throwing him in there, seeing what happens. Meanwhile, Denver sounds like they might not even start Bo Nix.
He's third on the depth chart right now. Jared Stidham is the guy there over Zach Wilson.
So here's the thing. I wanted to bring this up, and that was the perfect time for it. I was listening to an interview. It was on one of the major stations, like NBC or CBS or something like that, where they were interviewing someone who used to work for a team in some capacity. I forget what it was. And he said, and I never known this, but I should have been able to figure this out on my own. You know those depth charts that they put out? Like, hey, this is the first unofficial depth chart by the Minnesota Vikings. Those don't actually come the majority of the time from the coaching staff. That can be the fucking PR department for the Vikings that just put that out on the team. Those don't mean shit. Like, if you're looking on like the DenverBroncos.com and it says, who did you just say? Number 3.
They had it listed because it's all over social media right now. Jared Stidham,
that don't mean jack shit.
Yep.
At all. Where don't even. I mean, those are maybe fun as a fan to look at and be like, oh, here are the top players on the team, but don't actually read into any of that.
I got to piggyback on it twice because it's funny you mentioned that. Social media has it blown up because for the Broncos, specifically what we're talking about, number 1 right now on the first release is Jared Stidham, second is Zach Wilson, and third is Bo Nix. You have to read.
I heard Zach Wilson is like firmly in third place for them.
Well, here, good point to that. I'm going to touch on that right now because you have to read the tea leaves and learn the very small things. They'll give it to you in the media. You just have to get past the bullshit of the things they want you to get mad about and listen. Like Colin Cowherd, we all agree on the show. He's kind of an old boomer dork, right? But I know that dude has a ton of connections. And the one that he talked about specifically, because I hated myself for 4 or 5 episodes, when Sean Payton was on there and talking about football, dude, I couldn't turn it off. He is really good at what he does. He's a dickhead, but he's really good at what he does, right? He's very, very good friends with Sean Payton. All he keeps hearing from them and his sources, and he's got a lot of plugs because he's on the West Coast. Remember, he was in Seattle forever. He's in LA. Denver ain't far away. Bo Nix is starting, dude. Bo Nix is Sean Payton's dude. And it's funny because he tried to play that flex like, oh, we made the Vikings jump up to get JJ McCarthy.
Oh, yeah.
No, the fuck you didn't. He was taking Diet Drew Brees in this draft regardless because, number 1, they had no choice. And 2, the guy started like 800 college games. Who do you think's going to come in and listen to Daddy run the plays for him the whole time? Hey, can you throw a crossing route at fucking 7 yards every time and complete it? Yeah. Okay. Can you throw outside the numbers twice a game for a big completion? Yeah. Watch all my tape. I did it for the last 3 years. You're my dude. Do exactly what the fuck I tell you and we'll win games. That is Bo Nix. It's funny that we're talking about all these depth charts because I'm with you. You're hearing Zach Wilson's third, and then they said Bo Nix. Bo Nix is starting for this team. I would put my rent money on it. There's no way.
All right, you like to watch and listen to a lot of like NFL analysts and experts. How do you feel about ESPN kind of moving on and making Nick Wright the guy they want to hitch their wagon to? Are you a Nick Wright guy?
I'm going to be as shallow as possible. Nick Wright is one of the ugliest humans I've ever seen in my life, and I don't like how smug he is. I really hate when just a TV analyst, no matter how damn good you are at your job, because let's give him and anyone who does that for a living the respect they deserve. That shit is hard. We are doing this on YouTube where we are not regulated by a whole building full of suits and networks and all that. It is hard. But I'll give him his credit. For all the shit I just talked, I have to come back and pay him a compliment. The dude is very good at what he does. I get kind of bored with the guys who are like so full of themselves because like, okay, I'm not going to listen to you make out with yourself for an hour. That's lame and that's douchey. And
I remember him. I forget the name of the program. What was the one he did with Chris Carter?
I don't remember.
I don't remember the name of. Because I remember I watched it because I was a Chris Carter fan, and that's how I got to know Nick Wright out in the sports media. The one thing I like about him is he doesn't just try to have a contrary asshole opinion for the sake of having one of those. He does try to back his stuff up with factual statements. Hey, I looked at the history of X, Y, and Z, and this tells me that this is what I'm basing my opinion on. So I do like that from him. Whether or not he's the guy you want to put all your eggs in that basket, I don't know. If it's me, I'm biased. If I'm at ESPN, I'm going, Pat McAfee, here are the keys to the castle. That's what I would do with the network, but I'm not in charge.
It really is. It's funny to talk about sports media because it really is your cup of tea. Like, it's kind of like a menu. Like, what are you in the mood for? Because, like, Pat McAfee, I love because he's so entertaining and he's kind of like one of the bros. But I do get worn out on him very fast.
Yeah. But there's a big difference between, like, watching Good Morning Football and watching Around the Horn,
Yeah, and that's a great example. Good Morning Football feels like a conversation, whereas Around the Horn, I can see it's like almost like a game show. And I'm like,
I used to love Around the Horn.
Yeah, and I like both
that when I was coming out of high school, like Around the Horn and PTI and all that stuff on ESPN. Like, that was the shits, man.
That's why I put my whiteboard up.
That was the good era.
You could tweet at Woody and he would put your stuff up. One of mine made it on there because I stole some random thing that I thought was funny off of the internet, and he put it up there one day, which is hilarious. I didn't even notice that.
The problem is that the green that's up there, you can't really read it.
Right. Yeah, the traditional chalkboard doesn't work. But what I was saying was, like, Pat McAfee, he's kind of made for the newer, younger generation, and I love him because of his charisma. But I like Pat McAfee in Instagram clips. I don't like listening to his show the whole time. It's exhausting for me.
It's a bit much.
It's a lot, and the energy is hard to keep up with. But like for like college game day on Saturdays, dude, he puts life. He makes that crowd even rowdier, and those are just all drunk idiots from whatever town that go to the school, right? But he feeds into it. I like the setting. I guess for me, and just to plug it again because I love it so much, I have fallen in love with Rich Eisen's program. I love everything about that.
That's a great podcast to listen to.
Yeah, there's an absolute reason the WWE pays Pat McAfee to hype up their product. There's a reason they do that.
Money well spent. Here's an interesting, just kind of overall football question for you guys. We rag sometimes on kind of the boring announcers that telecast the games and whatnot. Oh man, they should do something different with it. And then when I watched the Manning cast on ESPN, and I realized how quickly I actually really do enjoy the quote kind of boring TV broadcasts that we're used to. I personally cannot sit down and watch that Manning, the Peyton Manning telecast. Like, no. Can you guys? You get into that at all?
I find it to be distracting, but I like both of them in any kind of interview or fun YouTube video or whatever. But them talking about it when I can't pay it literally distracts me.
I can't pay attention to the game,
and I'm like, that's the whole reason I'm here. What's happening right now?
Like, say what you will about boring old Troy Aikman, but he's good at his job. Like, it makes you respect those guys. It makes you respect those guys, though.
Doesn't it?
I think so.
Did you have to bring up Joe Buck and Troy Aikman? Because I
like Joe.
Both of them.
You know what? Am I going to lose Vikings cred when I say I like Joe Buck now?
I learned to appreciate Joe Buck.
Yes. Yep.
Joe Buck, yes. Troy Aikman, he can go. I'm not a fan.
You know what gets frustrated when I see that Vilma is commentating a Vikings game? Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
What I liked, and they got rid of it super fast, and it annoyed the shit out of me because I want to have a brain that works that way. When Tony Romo for that one season or two was literally calling the plays out, and he stopped doing it because the producers are like, hey, if you're going to sit beside Jim Nantz, who's a fucking Hall of Famer and a staple of broadcasting, you're ruining everything because you're being a quarterback. I need you to be an analyst.
And as soon as they told him to stop doing that, fans turned their backs on him immediately.
I know.
I hate it. I love that. I love that he was like, hey, watch Marshawn Lynch. He's going to go out to the left here. There's going to be a gap. And then it happens. We're like, that's fucking amazing. Tell me what's going to happen next. No, they shut that down, and I'm like, this is fucking genius. But
maybe that's part of the reason why I've always been disappointed with like the Peyton Manning stuff on ESPN, because you've always heard that he was like having an offensive coordinator at quarterback who could just read defenses and set everything and do it. And like as a fan, I want that big brain plugged in to what's going on the field. And like you said, just Peyton, just sit there and dissect what the defense is doing and what the offense is doing, and tell me as a fan so I can learn more about the game. That's what I want to see.
Because say what you want about what happened. I don't know any of the full details at all. I just know there was a shitload of bad emails, and it can't be good because he's kind of been thrown under.
You're talking about Gruden?
I'm talking about Gruden. But that quarterback thing that he did with everybody coming out was fucking awesome.
I missed that. I miss John Gruden on ESPN. He made Monday Night Football entertaining.
I don't like him in the coaching stuff anymore. I think he's just one of those guys that's kind of like maybe a little outdated. He's on a team somewhere doing something now. I know that. But like head coaching, maybe it's not his thing anymore, but he was so good, and he's just got that accent and that personality that works. But the thing that I want to watch, and I know at some place it's going to be a thing where you can't do it live because it'll give away information, even though every team can study every team every week because that's what they do. They watch the game tape. But to hear what you're saying, Kyle, to hear Peyton Manning live in real time call out what's happening and then point at this guy and maybe even draw it on the screen as fast as he does, as elegantly as he does, dude, I'll pay a subscription fee for that shit.
Yeah.
Inject that into my veins every week and I'll pay
for it. Bill Belichick.
But that kind of system has to be working, especially financially, because we see like even on Peacock, they are enlisting Kevin Hart to do commentary about the Olympics.
Really?
No, thank you.
I hate that so much.
I shit on Kevin Hart in England this week. It was bad.
I don't find him funny at all.
Well, he's got a new movie coming out.
There's a big market for well-known people talking about things that they might not, have a great handle on. I know Peyton Manning was a great quarterback, but what makes him an expert when it comes to, a game between the Jets and Jaguars?
I feel like he would be able to tell you what defense it is because he's seen every one of them.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember now. Do you remember, wasn't there a season where they had Dennis Miller doing commentary on
and people hated it.
Because, that look, that reaction from Kyle Smith. This must be the first time you heard this.
It is.
Dennis Miller, for a season, did play-by-play commentary, I think for ESPN, Adam.
Yeah,
why and how? Why Dennis Miller and how the hell did that come about?
Because it's the Kevin Hart thing. It's like you try.
It's a big name at the time.
Your name to the product to get more people on there.
Yep,
dude. I was taking the cab in London and I saw they have the big double-decker red buses and everything is a billboard now. So it's this perfume or this play or whatever. And they had the new Kevin Hart movie. I think it's called like Borderlands or something like that. And it's got it looks like a WWE cast of just random people. And I'm like, I wanted this movie to be good because I think Kate Blanchett is in it and someone else. But I said
Jamie Lee Curtis is in the movie.
Jamie Lee Curtis, Kate Blanchett. And I'm like, oh, cool, it'll be good. And then I saw Kevin Hart, and then it's like, never mind, this movie's dog shit.
Jack Black's in it.
Yeah,
Kevin Hart's in it. I can't watch it. I can't think of one movie outside of the one he did with Bryan Cranston that had some sort of any percentage of substance to it at all.
Like Jumanji?
Bryan Cranston? What movie
did
Bryan
Kevin
Cranston
Hart
is in?
He's in a wheelchair, and it's a remake of a movie in Europe that they did here. Bryan Cranston's in a wheelchair, and basically Kevin Hart is his caregiver. And they're
Wait,
like,
how about Ride Along? You liked Ride Along, right?
I'm not into that. It feels too like cliche for me. Like as in, hey, I got the goofy black guy that comes from the poor neighborhood, and I'm gonna have this white dude that's a completely different personality. We're gonna be friends at the end. Like, how many fucking times have we seen this movie? And it's not funny. I know what jokes you're gonna make. The white guy listens to friggin' Celine Dion, and he likes mayonnaise on his sandwich. Like, I've heard this fucking joke 700 times. Why are we making the same movie all over again? I wish, and there's a reason too. Like, I'm going off on this for no reason at all, but there's a reason too. At that Tom Brady roast, they're like, hey, he will do any movie because he's a fucking sellout. I'm like, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
His movies are not good. I don't like the Jumanji ones just because you pick, like, hey, I'm The Rock and I got to be in this movie. It's like, we don't have to remake Jumanji. It's Robin Williams, for fuck's sake. You don't have to remake this. It was fine how it was. Like, oh, I wish we would get away with that.
I don't know. I like Karen Gillan, though. She's good.
That's the same one that was in it was one of the Marvel movies. I forget what character she played, but when I saw the face and I put it together, it's like, oh my God, you're her. That's crazy. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I know her from Doctor Who, though, because I'm a little bit of a nerd.
Speaking of movies, now we can go back to what I remember from there. So I was talking to my brother on the way back. I had this long gap. You do a 7 or 8 hour flight from Europe to here, and then I have a connection. Literally, my flight was 29 minutes from Washington to D.C. to Richmond. So I had a long layover at the airport, and I was talking to my brother, catching up, and I was like, hey, we just got randomly started talking about movies and music. And they were like, Kyle, you feel like someone who's always want to give your opinion on stuff. What are your favorite horror movies? What are your favorite comedies? And I said, for me personally, I would do a Mount Rushmore. 3 is not enough, but you don't want to do 5 and 10 or whatever. So I had Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Wedding Crashers. And then I was like, I don't know about a third. I'll leave it open. But I was like, 4th place has to be something with Jim Carrey. That's just my guy. Usually for our age, Adam Sandler or something, or this. I was like, it's going to be a Jim Carrey movie. I just have to figure out which one I love the most. But that's the thing where I want to throw that out to you guys. So we're just talking about movies now. I'm not even talking about the Vikings. But if you're going to put a comedy,
you don't have any classics on there?
I'd have to go through the list. There's a lot to pick from. Instantly the classic, when you're like classic comedy, what do you think of? I think of Caddyshack.
I got Airplane.
Airplane was up there too. There's a lot of good ones.
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles was a staple of my youth. That, History of the World, and Ace Ventura were rotating every weekend at my friend's house. We would, spend the night at a friend's house, cereal, and then whatever Mel Brooks movie his dad.
And you either like Monty Python or you don't like Monty Python. You're one of those.
Agreed.
I don't like Holy Grail as much as I like Life of Brian, which makes me kind of weird. I'm in the minority there, I know.
Hey, I was scrolling Twitter real quick. I got a piece of football news to share with you guys. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones on contract talks with CeeDee Lamb, and I quote, I don't have any urgency to get it done.
They're really doing it over there.
Yeah, I don't know. Moving on from him and Dak would be a bit much.
That's restarting the franchise if you do that.
Well, here's the thing.
I was taking a look, and on MSN, there was an article shared from CBS Sports about how the Vikings are holding off on extensions for Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah ahead of the 2024 season, and they expect a playoff push despite new quarterbacks, which is interesting. I don't know if I'd expect a playoff push, but I'd want to see how this season goes and how the general manager and coaching staff react to it. To me, that's more important than saying playoffs now.
Yeah, that kind of feels like you're putting an arbitrary thing that you have to hit. Yeah, it's unnecessary. Kevin O'Connell is not going anywhere. They're not moving on for him. He's going to get a contract extension. Kwesi could, and I feel like he's been improving every year as the
I feel
GM.
Like the first year for him was really rough.
Really
but since
rough.
Then it's been better.
You could maybe make a case and it doesn't even feel fair to say it out loud. You could maybe make a case for moving on from him, but I really don't even think you do that. I'm perfectly fine with extending both of them. Give them both another 4 or 5 year contract. It's all funny money. It don't matter. You can fire him at any time if it's not working
none of
out
us
anyway.
are the Wilfs,
so.
but we got to think about how the Wilfs are seeing this.
Yeah.
It's true, but you've got to. That's one of the few times where I would listen to the pulse of what the fans and what everybody's saying, because they're on a trajectory right now of, hey, at this pace, based on everything we're doing, we're getting there. This is when the owners cannot get impatient.
And with how patient the Wilfs were with Spielman and Zimmer, I don't see them being too hasty for
I agree.
These new people.
I hate to. It's a good comparison when we were talking about how the fear of the unknown is maybe why, if you're the Miami Dolphins, you keep Tua, because, hey, we know what we got and we'll pay him and we'll just keep him in the building. You don't want to. I'm not getting rid of Kevin O'Connell because, like you said, he's on that right path. The only way I'm doing that is if I've talked Bill Belichick into coming coach for the Minnesota Vikings. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not taking that plunge to go, you're headed in the right direction, but maybe not quick enough. We're going to get rid of you and start all over from scratch. And then you're what? You get Brad Childress 2.0, and you just completely tank the franchise? I feel
like that conversation would be completely different if Minnesota had failed to get a quarterback in the first round of the draft.
Yes. Yep.
Because this is a quarterback league, and as much as I hate to say it, you can have the most talented roster in the world, but if you have Brock Purdy as your quarterback, people are still going to be like questioning Brock Purdy. Is he a good quarterback, or does he just have good talent around him?
Yeah. And I do think
the team is winning games, and you got to put some credit on the coaches for making that happen. But I don't think enough credit goes there.
And I do think it was important for this organization, the staff in particular, to find their quarterback, right, wrong, or indifferent. They had to find their guy that they can put their stamp on and say, this is the direction we're going with the team. Because I do think, had they just, hey, we're going to keep Kirk, we're gonna ride that wagon until the wheels fall off from it. You're putting yourself.
Did we go 53 minutes before mentioning Kirk Cousins?
We did.
We haven't talked about Christian Ponder yet. He told us he wanted to talk about him.
More of a position. I forgot about it. That's why. You're putting yourself in more of a position to get fired, I think, if you would have just kept Kirk around, because that had the potential to just completely burn that wagon down when he's no longer a viable option. At least now you go, hey, we believe in McCarthy. We're going to try with him. Our chips are in that basket. We've also seen, to use the 49ers as an example, you can talk ownership into moving on from a first-round quarterback a hell of a lot quicker than what you used to be able to, and you can kind of not get punished for it the way you used to as well, too.
The media has been kind of running wild with this Kirk Cousins narrative right now about how things would be very different if Atlanta was upfront with Kirk about what they were really going to do, and that he might still be a member of the Minnesota Vikings if they had been honest about their intentions with the quarterback position in Atlanta. And we've talked about that on the show, and that's definitely something that is a definite possibility that things might have been very different if other teams were as honest as Minnesota was.
So and I don't know, if you pretend that the only two teams in the NFL that were interested in Kirk Cousins were the Minnesota Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons, and both of them are honest in saying we're taking a rookie quarterback in this draft, does he stay here or does he go to Atlanta? Like what choice would he make if it was a fair choice between both teams? I really don't know.
I really don't know on the whole thing, because he's a money merchant, and he always has been. And I love Kirk, but he chased the money. The Vikings gave him a decent offer, but there was always that linger of, you're 36, coming off an Achilles, new coach, new regime. We need to find your successor at some point, and he didn't like that. That's the whole reason he left was, well, I'll go get paid here because they've been at rotation at quarterback since Matt Ryan left. I'll just go there and be a solid starter. And then what does Atlanta do? The same damn thing Minnesota would have done to him, but they offered him more money, which I think is hilarious.
Kirk, how old is Kirk? 36. 36. I was going to say 34. Holy shit. 36. So he's older than what I thought he was. Shouldn't he know? He's a smart man. Shouldn't he know at this stage in his career, any team I go to is going to invest in a rookie quarterback soon, because that's just where the league is. Like
Speaking of investing in rookie quarterbacks, do you remember that saying that Minnesota was trying to move up to get Drake May, and right now the reports about Drake May is that he's looking terrible in camp.
Yeah.
Like really bad.
I'm glad nobody on this podcast really wanted him on this team. Shit.
Like those reports are brutal.
They're fucking so bad. They're so bad. Yeah. I heard those. To your point though, Kyle, to go back to it, the one thing, and this is the low-hanging fruit, the easiest take in the world. If this was a season where Kirk didn't tear his Achilles and the Vikings weren't in playoff contention literally the last week of the season with Nick Mullins, I do think this team would have been closer to double-digit wins. They would have clawed their way for maybe that Rams spot in the playoffs, and maybe they would have lost in the wild card, but they would have gotten there again. And then it becomes, do you really want to try 7 seasons with this same formula? We got a new coach. We got this. Do you want to try again for season number 7? But because of that certainly changed the dynamic, in my opinion, to where it's like, okay, new start, new coach, new city. They'll take the chance because they need it. We've already seen how this story's played out 6 years in a row. I get annoyed with it. Well, if they would have been up front, bro, you said in Washington, I want to be a Commander for life. Then you got here and I want to be a Viking. You want to get paid money, which is fine, but it's kind of ironic and hypocritical to be like, I wish they were honest. We all wish you were honest, bro. Just come out and say, I want to make sure I secure the bag because that's what I care about the most. And then I will give you everything I have. It doesn't matter what thing is on my helmet. I want to be paid what I'm worth. If he said that, I would be like, hats off to you, man. Nobody's ever done. That would be the anti-Russell Wilson. But he can't. They just can't come out and say that, which I don't understand. We get your contract details either way. Well, we need to be proper and not talk about it.
Yeah, you got to play the game.
Yeah.
We're going to find out what you made anyways. It's going to be a story for a whole fucking month. What do you mean? Just you can deliver it in a way where it's like, it's very like the way Dak said it about his situation recently, very classy. But it's like, well, we can't talk about that. Bro, we're going to talk about your contract and read every detail as soon as it comes out.
Either way,
what do you mean?
We're going to. Yeah.
I don't understand that. That's why I get spirited about it. It's like, okay, we're going to talk about this 24/7, everything under a microscope. We're going to do all these fantasy scenarios, but then we got these guys that are like, well, when you get to the podium, you need training and do all this. Can we get a little bit of authenticity? That's why I love Marshawn Lynch. He was my favorite player for 3 years. What's up? I'm just here so I don't get fined, bro. I don't give a fuck.
Did you watch that show on Fox with Marshawn Lynch where they went out to like the fake Mars?
Oh no,
no, I never
another
did.
show.
Yeah, it was actually a good show. I watched the whole thing.
Oh, it's amazing.
It was him and Richard Sherman were out there, and it was amusing.
Oh, that's amazing. He's just
good.
got a personality, man. It's so fun, and I love. Shout out to Marshawn Lynch. It was very well known, and he never said it. He's like, I didn't spend a single game check until I got out. He saved it all. So, and coming from a guy that's like, well, I'll put the elephant in the room. All the people where I fucking live are like, oh, I see a ghetto black dude that's like talks funny and has slang. He must not be smart. That's one of the smartest motherfuckers I ever heard about in the NFL. Yeah. He's always been at, hey, go get your bread. Go get your bread. He's always telling the young players, go get your money. And dude, that's a guy you need in your locker room because as funny as and the personality as he was, he had every one of his guys back, which is I love a player like that. I love Marshawn Lynch. But I like him because he's authentic, man. He's over there like, I don't want to talk about that shit. How can I get out of this without getting fined? I'm just going to say some stupid shit 14 times in a row till my time is up. Y'all go ahead. That was one of the best moments of my football watching life so far.
All right, so Saturday's preseason game against the Raiders will be on NFL Network. So definitely check it out if you can. Let's close out the show by naming one player for the Vikings other than a quarterback that we are excited to see on Saturday.
Dallas Turner.
All right.
That's who I'm excited to see.
I'm just thinking just to make a point on the show. I wanted to say Jerry Tillery, but he's in a boot right now, I believe. I wanted to see how he was. You know what? I'm going to shout out the man because I saw him on Vikings Twitter, and he's out here interacting with the fans again. He begged to come back last year, and they didn't do it, but he's back a year later. Duke Shelley, my man.
There you go.
I want to see if you're a one-year
choice.
wonder or if you want to come back and you want to shut people down, because I haven't forgot about that Buffalo game, sir. Everybody wants to talk about the Josh Allen fumble and Patrick Peterson securing the win. This 5'0" corner.
Oh, that breakup was big.
Saved a touchdown. And then what was it? He was originally a Bear. He's like, I will get a fucking interception against this former team. I love a cornerback that plays bigger than what he is. I get Antoine Winfield diet light vibes from this dude. Bring it back. Duke Shelley, you're my man. I'm watching you this weekend.
Now, the hype is really high surrounding this guy at the moment. But I am excited to see if he can keep up with it. Will Reichert has been hitting every field goal in practice. Every single one.
And Adam, if you saw it on Twitter from one of the coaches the other day, he said this sparked from him having controversy and adversity. He missed some at some point recently, like he didn't have a good day. And then since that moment, he has been locked in. And that one that made its rounds around Twitter, holy God, they were like, hey, this is a 50-something yarder. This would have been good from 70.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so good, dude. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself with this kid, but he is getting me all kinds of
you were Vikings fans. Don't ever get excited for a kicker, but he has potential.
I'm also interested to see how the Vikings handle the kickoffs and the returns. Who do you think is going to be returning punts? Think it'll be Powell?
Powell or Keenan? It's got to be, right?
Well, they've been trying out Addison there.
I would try him out with that shit. I know it might be a little safer since they've changed the format and all that, but that's your wide receiver too.
Do you remember when the Cardinals used to have Patrick Peterson returning kickoffs, and I was like, I don't like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't like that, and he was great at it. But
yeah, I don't want my stars or superstars putting in any position, even if it's a lot safer. I don't want to see that shit. Yeah.
So that's all I got for this week. Do you guys got anything else you want to add?
Vikings news. No, we pretty much talked about everything. Oh, we touched on it. You just brought him up. I don't know what's going to happen with the Jordan Addison situation. None of us do at the moment, but it looks like if I had to take an educated guess based on the information we have on August 8th, per what happened, there were 2 misdemeanor DUI charges. It's the first thing about substance abuse now is 3 games. I don't feel like the Vikings would do more than that because they firmly said, hey, let the league do what they do. And we'll respond accordingly. But it looks like we're going to miss Jordan Addison for the first 3 games. I think that's probably what's going to happen.
And there was an interview, I believe it was with a local TV interview that Chris Carter did, where he was asked about whether or not he spoke with Jordan Addison. And he did say that he had a conversation with Addison. He was going to keep that between those two. He was not going to speak about what he spoke with, but that kind of really, you can read between the lines here. I'm assuming that the Vikings really did bring Chris Carter in kind of as a mentor, get your shit together, kind of talk with him. I hope that sticks. Chris Carter is a Hall of Fame player. We all know about his struggles that he had in the past. He was able to overcome it. Like I said, had himself a nice long career. He's got himself a Hall of Fame jacket. So if there was ever a player that Jordan Addison should listen to, it's Chris Carter. Take the man's advice.
I hate that when you said mentor, the Mentos theme played in my head. And in my head,
Speaking of
Dave Grohl with the thumbs up.
Yes. The Futos. Stop throwing Mentos at us on stage. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Chris Carter too, and this will be the last thing I speak about. It's funny, I shared it on Instagram, but he's in an interview, I guess recently, where he was talking about threatening to punch Skip Bayless. Best thing I've ever heard. Pretty much saying, to sum it up, I'm paraphrasing, but they were going back and forth about something, and Skip Bayless just took a shot and was like, oh yeah, well, that's why you never won a Super Bowl or you never did this. And he said, kept it in during the thing. He's like, I got out, took my earpiece out and said, if you ever bring that shit up again, I will knock your fucking teeth out.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like, bro, Skip Bayless, who the fuck are you to say that to any of these guys?
I low-key like the way him going after Shannon Sharp ruined Skip Bayless's career. Like, that's amazing to me. Like, That's so he's so full of shit. So
These
full
are
of shit.
the most alpha men outside of hockey players, wrestler, like collegiate, whatever wrestlers and MMA fighters. These are the 0.1%, right, of alpha males in the world. And it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to take shots at you. Like, dude, they'll break you in half. What are you doing? Like, I never understand that. But yeah, let's plug away. And we talked about everything but Vikings football.
There was some Vikings football in here too.
We sprinkled it in a little bit.
Oh, well, you can check out my work over at the Viking Age, and you can catch me on social media at MNVikingZombie. Right now, over on the Viking Age, Adam Patrick is on mini vacation, so I'm handling a lot of the duties over there. So that's why I've been kind of keeping up on quite a bit of the Viking stuff, and why I discussed some odd things today. I mean, I didn't talk about nail polish or anything like that, but still, it's good time.
Here you guys go to. Let's do this while we're here, just because I want to, and we don't do it very often. But here you go. Here are some articles that our very own Adam Carlson.
It's very JJ McCarthy heavy right now.
He's a handsome young man. He makes me feel like I am a senior citizen on my deathbed, but that's fine. Yeah. You just go here, and I'll show you guys, too, to make it visual. If you go to thevikingage.com, as you see now, Adam's article is featured here. You can click on his name, and then we'll go right to his work and can kind of give you a list. And all you got to do is go to one of these articles, not to spoil it, but
no, I just saw that article there that I wrote, and it reminds me that last Monday was supposed to be the night practice for the Vikings with all the fireworks and throwing the autographed footballs in stands and everything like that. Me and Mr. West have gone to those before.
That was always my favorite part of training camp, was the night practice.
But the one on last Monday got canceled because of weather, and it got rescheduled to this coming Monday.
Nice.
So if you want to go and check that out, it's a good time. It really is a good time.
I can't speak for you guys because I haven't seen a practice there, but I can tell you after touring the facility, the new one, holy crap, man.
No, don't say touring the facility, because now I'm thinking of cake. I'm singing cake songs in my head.
No. After seeing where you would get to watch this, it's amazing. That place is so nice, man. So nice. And I want to stay at that hotel so bad. But
actually, a recent study for US Bank Stadium found that it is the 4th cleanest stadium in the NFL.
There we go. Who are the 3 above it?
I don't remember.
I got to find this. Adam, you got to send this to me. I need to know this information. This is pertinent OCD information that I
know the dirtiest is Commander Stadium, which is what they call it now.
Yeah, that checks out.
Somebody that
not Philadelphia.
Whoever endorsed Commander Stadium no longer endorses them. What was it, FedEx?
Right.
Yeah, it used to be FedEx Field. Was that the one that the sewer pipe broke on that was literally spraying shit?
That's the one.
Yep.
Where everybody's legs get broken and fucked up. Oh, God.
Have you seen that graphic?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's startling.
Yeah, it is.
And it only goes to that rant I went on like a month or two ago saying how cheap the fucking NFL and the owners are about changing the field and not investing in stuff. But anyways.
Here you go, Smith. Number 1 cleanest is Lucas Oil.
I can see that.
Number 2 is Arrowhead.
Nice.
And number 3 is Everbank for Jacksonville.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they do have swimming pools there.
I've never heard it called that. Everbank?
They do have swimming pools there, so I would hope that it would be some kind of...
The second dirtiest is Cleveland. Shocker.
Yeah, that checks out.
I'm still surprised Philadelphia wasn't at the bottom. Those people are savages, man.
No, Philly ain't even in the top 10 dirtiest.
Oh, wow. Are the Panthers near the bottom?
Every time I put my phone down, you guys, I tell you.
Come on. We want to know.
I don't see it there, no.
That's crazy.
They definitely aren't on the cleanest list, though. But yeah, I get sent weird promotional emails, and this one is from, I don't even, Group Media. And they're like, hey, read an article about this. And it's like, it's interesting, but I don't know if it's article worthy.
That's funny. Well, we're down to 1 viewer right now. We're sorry. That definitely fucking turned it off. Like and subscribe, please. Give us a thumbs up on Facebook. YouTube, the best. click on and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. It'll tell you when I schedule these out. Hey, we're going to go live so you can join in. What we want is for
We're
you
going to go live at 7 a.m. Woo!
7 a.m., baby. You know I did that right before I went to sleep last night because I got that message and I was like, oh, my God, had I not randomly rolled over and checked my phone, we would have missed the schedule part for the podcast this morning. And just because it's funny and we never deleted it out of here, is ketchup childish?
Childish Gambino.
This is America.
It is.
All right.
Once again, thank you to everyone who joins in the chat, anyone who listens, shares, comments, reviews, anything like that. We appreciate all that. We'll be back next week. We'll talk about that preseason game against the Raiders. In the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.